Welcome to Six Figure Coaches with Luke Charlton, where every week we interview a successful coach and break down their business. We take you behind the scenes in their marketing, advertising, and sales campaigns. We show you what's working. We show you their frameworks, their proven strategies, so you can implement them in your business to grow. Now let's bring on this week's guest. Here is your host, Luke Charlton. Hey, this is Luke Charlton here, and welcome back again to another episode of the Six Figure Coaches Show. Very excited to have you here on today's episode. Got another amazing guest today, which I'll bring on in just one moment. Super excited to have him on. He's responsible for 130 million in sales. From a few different areas in his career. So I'm excited to dive into that. But particularly, he's a very, very successful coach, growing a very successful coaching business. Now, just before we dive into that, remember the Six Figure Coaches Show, we premiere each week inside the private Facebook group community called the Hermit Hole. So just go to the Hermit. I don't know why I laugh each time I say that. The Hermit Hole is a bit of a ridiculous name. Thehermithole.com. Go to thehermithole.com. That'll take you straight to the Facebook group, and you can watch these interviews before it goes live on iTunes and Stitcher and all the other podcasting platforms. And of course, inside the Hermit Hole, there's other stuff that we gift you and help you with to help grow your coaching business. So just go to thehermithole.com. Okay, with that being said, let's get stuck into the interview. So as I mentioned, this coach has been responsible for over 130 million in sales. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he actually has an amazing story that I want to dive into, where he fell from a zip line and broke his back and continued to coach through that, which I'm interested to kind of dive into that story, but continued to coach through it, like literally lying on his back, continuing to coach while he couldn't walk. Continuing to deliver for his clients. So let me bring on Matt Drinkhahn, which is a German name. So Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome to Six Figure Coaches. Super excited to have you here. Now, before we get going, can we give the coaches just a little bit of background? Because we were chatting before jumping on, and one of the things that, just going through your bio, you have like a wealth of experience and you work in a few different areas. So do you just want to give the coaches listening some context as to the different businesses and areas that you work in, a little bit of your background as well?
Thank you, Luke. And yes, that was quite a painful fall on the zip line. And
Sounds like it.
I didn't exactly break my back, but I ended up turning into a question mark. Basically, my back was just so shattered and messed up. And over the course of the 9 months after that, I ended up disabled in a wheelchair and ended up having a spinal surgery. And I actually walked out of the hospital that day. So that was June 14th, 2016.
Wow.
And quite a shocking and challenging experience. And that was only in my second year of coaching. And imagine this, we're working virtually, we're on Zoom or GoToMeeting at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm known as the energy, the positive, the guy that's always bringing that type of energy. And I had to turn the webcam off for about 2 months. I turned the webcam off and did all the coaching laying flat on my back, either in my bed or on the office floor. And it was an incredibly challenging time. It really tested the metal. But that was then. And I'd love to share with your listeners kind of the background in my career. I'm 45 years of age.
Yep.
I've been in professional selling or in some type of business since I was 21. And I have 4 different jobs or roles I've had in my career so far, all of them in some type of sales capacity, business to consumer, business to business, always as a seller and as a leader. So never as just manager, always as like a selling leader. And that.
Can I kind of stop you there? When you say selling leader, how do you define that?
Oh, well, selling leader is someone that is not just telling all the salespeople what to do. They're showing them what to do as well. They're out
You're
there
in the trenches with them, basically. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
That's
cool.
right.
Yeah. You're doing the calls. Cool. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, so that's approximately 130 million in sales over that time. I'd say about 25% of that was from me directly. And then about 75% of that was from the teams that I led through that time. So that was the sales background that led me to, and I'm right now about a few million in sales and coaching directly in the past 8 years. I'm into coaching now this is my 9th year, professional coaching. The people that I serve right now, just to give you a background so your listeners know, right now, I started working with financial advisors, because that was where Pro Advisor Coach is the company and the umbrella that I work under. Pro Advisor Coach serve financial advisors. So I'm very into everything in the financial advisory space. I coach the highest level people in that place. The people I coach there right now, it's about a third of my book of business. They manage a few $1 billion in assets. So working with those owners, leaders, and helping them scale out their businesses, helping them tier their books, everything intricate in the details of financial services, that's about a third of my practice. Okay. And another about 40% of my practice right now are the people that you see that go on stage at like Ad World, for example, like a big speaking conference, a big speaking that they give the TEDx talks, they go speak keynotes and big conferences. I coach the big personality in the room who's a leader of a company. It's maybe it's one company, maybe it's up to 5 companies that are between 100 million and $1 billion in revenue. I'll coach that leader on how to keep things simple, keep it all together, and have that harmony in their family life and with all their leadership teams. So that high profile personality. And then there's about 30% left over that are still kind of the clients that I've had for years that I love so much, I don't want to let go of. And they're in various places. I've got one in big box retail. I've got a couple of entrepreneur startups. And I got a couple that are kind of in this unusual space of corporate real estate that's been navigating weird places for the past 3 years. So those are the makeup of the clients. The personality, or the person I've come to learn that I work best with, is basically me, who is a recovering perfectionist, who's a highly functioning workaholic, who just go, wants to always take action. And the other part of that is the person that is really structured and is so rigid they have trouble getting off the bench and taking action. So I know I just said a lot right there.
Military? Is that like yeah, that was a lot there.
Well, yeah. Well, so it comes from the background that my dad was in the military. And very regimented. But mom, she was this Southern Deb, sweet as can be. There's no stranger in the room. So you put the talker with the regimented military person, and you move. Right now, move 38 times in 45 years of living. You've got someone that can go and walk into the room and just talk to people, and that's it, right? So that's. Does that answer the question? I think that's kind of where we're at
that
right
gives
now.
a good context as to. Okay, so you mentioned that your ideal client is the recovering kind of perfectionist, right? Someone that's structured, leader, workaholic. Now, is that like a third? That's the third of your business at the moment. Is that those people that you're working with, you're coaching?
I found over time, and just to give a little more context on the scaling of the business, when I got started coaching, I didn't have any revenue at all. I needed any client I could possibly get. So I started off, and after the first year, I had 35 clients that were paying me somewhere between $200 and $1,000 a month. I know that's a big scale. I had to do whatever I could to get a client and coach them and still, be able to work this. So that's where I started. Right now, I'm scaling towards this place where I got 10 ideal clients at 15,000 a month. That's the place that, we're currently working towards, and we're not exactly there. We're more than halfway there. We're not exactly there at 10 clients at that range. But all of the people I've come to find over time, they tend to have this recovering perfectionist, highly functioning workaholic. Because you attract who you are, you attract a certain kind of person with the way that you run your practice. And that's who I attract. It's a niche person like that. If you look at the DISC profile, for example, which is one of many out there, but if you look at someone like that, if they're a high D and an I, right? That's me. I'm 99D, 98I. That person I work very well with. If there's someone who is all even keel energy, very structured and smooth, sometimes my energy, I've got to slow it down to come back to that. And I found over time, that's just not really me. So I've worked very well with a certain type of person that has that type of thinking pattern, that recovering perfectionist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so with your 15K a month, is that the only offer that you have? It's just 15K a month. It's just that's the main program that you're trying to grow into, get more clients into, or is there others? I'm just trying to. The reason I'm
Good
asking,
question.
yeah, one of the things
Good
I ask
question.
coaches is like, what's your business model, right? So is it just
Mhm.
that program, or do you have other ones underneath that? Give us an overview of like what your business model is, different programs.
Great question. So the business model uh, before was anything I can get. Now it's a little bit more niche, a little bit more specific. In the
Yep.
15,000 a month range, what that entails is that's going to entail the private coaching with the
Hmm.
leader of the company. It's going to be the internal leadership team of this company also coming and working there. I'm facilitating either weekly, maybe
Yep.
twice a month, a call with those leaders. So
Hmm.
those are 3 touch points. I'm likely also working with the sales team and coaching them on sales. Those are 4
Hmm.
touch points. And I am working with this team probably 2 times each year where I will physically come to their location and do something such as a barefoot firewalk, which we facilitate,
Yeah.
or
Wow.
some type of 2-day retreat in the mountains where we'll do some very interesting team games and things out in the wilderness. But it's 2 times on site, probably 4 types of coaching interactions each week or every other week,
Yep.
okay? And helping them to work on their leadership as well as a whole organization. So it's really if you deconstruct what I
Yeah.
just
Wow.
shared, it's really 5 big touch points and then
Yeah.
2 on sites. The 5 touch points are either weekly or every other week,
Cool.
okay? And then 2 on sites each year.
And so it's quite an intense offer for you to deliver on. So it sounds like you prefer to work with fewer clients at a much higher level.
Well, yes, that's come from over time, developing a skill and developing the referral base to do that. That's one offer. All right, if we
Yep.
go down a level from there,
Okay.
that gives me the ability. Let's just say that 15K a month. That's a lot. You're paying me 150,
Mm.
$200,000 a year to coach. That's a lot. Well, it is. It's a big investment, but for the size of company and the scale they want to get to, it's worth it when they can get there, right?
Right.
So we
Yep.
help them get there faster. But let's say there's someone that's a little bit smaller business. They've got 3 million in revenue. They can afford to pay a couple thousand a month, or maybe even less than that, maybe 1,000 a month to scale and grow the business. That's not an ideal like income range or revenue range for me, and where I'm
Mm.
at and the skill level and kind of where we built a business. But I have a team full of coaches of
Mm.
various levels and various expertise that I can insert into there and make the introduction for them. Right. So
Yeah.
we've got people on the bench that can help out. Let me reframe that. They're not on the bench. People with a different specialty set than I have
I
at
getcha.
this time. They choose to deploy it there. I can hand off to those
Yeah, you
coaches.
don't say that in the sales call, do you? Don't worry, I got people on the bench for you.
Yeah, yeah, I was. I'm not gonna say that in the sales call. That's right. That's right.
um,
I hope your
okay,
listeners
cool.
get a good laugh out of that one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you have so you got your core program where you work, and then you've got your team of coaches. Is it just is it one program that they go into, or is it just different levels depending on what that particular client's cash flow is?
I'd say it depends on what they want most, what their goals might be, what level of time and level of resource they're willing to commit to it. I mean, if it's a client that they want a life coach, they want to have good conversation and work through some mental things, but we don't really tie it to a revenue goal. That's
Yeah.
a different proposition. That's probably not as high paying.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'll find a life coach. We have life coaches that do great at that, and they aren't 6-figure earners necessarily, but they love what they do and they're great at it. And we have people on the team that can do that. And then we have the hard charging. I want to scale it to 100 million. I want to scale it to a billion.
Yeah.
And those particular people, I can get on board with that because I have the desire to help them get to there. So I'll
Yeah.
work with them myself. And then we have everything in between. It
Yeah. Yeah.
really depends on what they want. But that kind of goes back to we're talking the model. We're talking some of the skills.
Mm.
If there's any one thing that I would invite your listeners to take away from our discussion today, remember me for this. It's become a heat-seeking missile for pain. That sounds kind of scary, man. What do you mean for pain? Well, when you can understand the pain that someone feels,
Yeah.
and you can help them to see that if there's not a change that's made, then they're going to keep having that pain.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you can help them to see that clearly and get really skilled at asking great questions to get to that,
Yeah.
then that's when you can scale your practice as a coach when you become a heat-seeking missile for pain. That's one
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
of becoming a a high performance or becoming a coach that gets to 6 figures or 7 figures is being able to understand, number one, the sales process of understanding pain.
Sales. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you get great at asking great questions? That's how you get great at sales, is get great at asking great questions. So
Okay,
that's the
let's
one
dive
part.
into that
Mhm.
because I totally agree. So I have another podcast, Matt. I just do a daily podcast on my phone.
Okay.
And one of the things that I talk about, and for those that listen to my podcast, they know that I talk about this a lot, which a lot of coaches don't do, right? Which is coaches are great at what they do, and they're so deep in their own system, their own methodology, that when they go to market that's what they talk about, right? So for example, I was talking to a coach yesterday. She's an executive coach, and she helps with emotional intelligence, right? So that's how she's trying to market her service. Like, hey, do you need help with emotional intelligence? And then other executives are like, no, I don't know, do I need it? And I said, like, what you need to do is you actually need to speak in terms of what the market wants, which is their painful problem, right? So pick a very painful problem. So for example, for her, the example that I gave was people. So I asked her, like, when you do your coaching with this emotional intelligence, do the employees, do they have a better experience in their work? Are they happy? She says yes. I said, do they actually stay longer in the job? She said yes. I said, so you actually reduce attrition, right? You reduce like the turnover rate. And she said yes. I said, well, that's a really painful problem, particularly now with this quiet quitting and people just quitting full stop. Like, if you can tie your service of emotional intelligence to reducing high turnover, now all of a sudden, you could be saving a company $500,000 to $1 million per year. You're doing the exact same thing. You're still doing your emotional intelligence coaching, but now it's in the context of a painful problem, right? Now all of a sudden you can charge $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. Now that executive understands why they should be investing that amount. But if you just lead with, do you need help with emotional intelligence? Like, what does that even mean? So I love what you just said about, finding the pain, because until there's a problem, a painful problem, like people, if there's no problem, like I have my sales coach, you may have heard of him. His name's Cole Gordon. He's like, if there's no problem, there's no sale, basically.
You're
So
totally right.
yeah.
I'm a big believer in the phrase yes and. So I love to take what you just shared and build on it.
Yep.
Yes and I'll take the idea of so do you need help in here, or can I talk to you about this? Versus you being able to share. Do you know how much the attrition is costing you from the Great Resignation? If
Yeah.
you were to break it down per employee and blah, 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 you do some numbers, some crunching, and you figure out that if you have a $75,000 employee and, well, it costs that person is gone. The revenue they bring in is gone. The time it costs to train is gone. The benefits are gone. And overall, every time you lose a $75,000 employee, you're losing $110,000. And if you lose 8 of those people a year, that's like $1 million, right? So that right there is the sales pitch. I love the way you broke it down to the ridiculous with the numbers and tied it to a number. And that's exactly the way I love to do it when working with prospects, is to share, this is the real world cost in dollars. Some of them work better when this is the real world cost in time or productivity. And I measure that in time many times. That's the real world cost. And until you take certain actions to make that go away or to reduce that, you're going to keep having that pain. So yes is the answer. You did that brilliantly.
Yeah, cheers. And one of the things I'm interested to know, like, is there a specific framework that you use on a sales call as an example? I mean, you kind of just gave a little bit of an insight there, but you mentioned asking good questions to find the pain. So I'll give you an example. So when I'm on a call, I will find out what the problem is, right? So often it's, I don't have clients, or I don't have enough appointments in my calendar. So that's the problem. Then it's like, okay, well, how long, how many appointments have you got in the last, then we break down the numbers, right? How many appointments have you got in the last 30 days? Okay, I've only got 10. Okay. How many were qualified? So you work out all the numbers, and then you want to like stretch the pain, right? So I go, well, how long has this been going on for? Oh, it's been going on for like the last 6 months. So, oh, wow. And so we'll, if we don't work together, how do you stop the next 6 months from being the same as like the last 6 months? And sometimes you can't ask a question like that if they're particularly sophisticated, but for people that aren't sophisticated, you can kind of help them. You ask those more kind of salesy questions to help them see into the future, and as you said, look at the cost of what inaction would do. So anyway, that's just an example of what I would do on my sales calls. Now, is there any particular strategy that you use to help identify the pain on your on these calls?
Absolutely. I mean, we have a very specific script, and I still stick to the script almost word for word to this
Mm,
day.
mm,
And we have to find a way to understand at first what might it look like. Let's just say this is my sales pitch. Let's pull out your crystal ball. Let's hover your hand over it and look forward in the future a year. It's the end of 2023. You've had massive success. What does that look like for you? And then I get the
mm,
response. Well, I like to view things in terms of the spokes of a wheel. Maybe this area over here in relationships, finance, health, or fitness. It could be in terms of business. It could be in terms of
mm.
spiritual for some, or any other areas. If you think in terms of that, are there any other things that you really want to accomplish that you see yourself the next year would be massively successful? So I get them to share what success looks like,
Yeah,
and then
outside of business, right? Let's personal areas of their
anything.
life.
Yeah,
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 that's right. That's right. So we get them to do both, share everything they can there, and then I'll ask the question. Well, let's look at what do you think are the barriers, obstacles, or challenges that might try to slow you down or stop you on the way to achieving those things in the next year,
mm,
right? And then they
mm,
start to share, and normally people will share the first thing, the biggest thing right there that's on top of their mind. Now I'll ask the same question again: is there anything else? And then I'll get
mm,
another answer. I'll make note. Is there anything else? And normally the third time I ask the question, we get to something that's a little bit under the waterline, a little bit deeper that they didn't want to bring up the first time. Assuming we've already built some trust and the confidentiality that we have,
yeah.
I'll get some of the tougher stuff the third time I ask. And then I'll ask one more time just to be sure.
You
And then
changed your tonality there, by the way, which I want to point out. You did change your tonality there, which I'm sure you did on purpose, right? You kind of slowed it down. Is that what you do on the
yeah,
call? Cool.
yes, because this is where it gets sensitive
Mm, mm,
and can be challenging. And
mm,
I'd say about 20 or 30% of the time, this continuing to ask that question, we might get to a tearful, like an outward expression of emotion of some kind.
yeah, wow.
Uh, so I want to be mindful of that because I'm not just hard charging in here just to make a sale. I really want to help, and to
Mm,
do that, I've really got to read what that pain is for them. So that's the moment right there when I ask that third time. And then from there, of course, I ask some of the questions that you have. What does that look like if you don't change that? How long has this been going on? If you don't change it, what's it look like in a year and 10 years?
yeah.
So we ask those. And then we get down to the place that by this point, normally, most of the time, they're asking me, so what does the coaching program look like?
Mm, mm,
So most of them will ask that. If they don't, I would like to invite you to experience what the coaching program might look like. Would you be open or interested in hearing about that? And if we're still here, then they say, yeah, I'd be interested.
yeah.
And
Mm,
I'll share that with them. And what you can't see here is I have a document camera. I have the most technology. It's like super nerded out over here. I got this high def everything, microphones, got a
yeah,
Rodecaster, ATEM Mini, got all this cool stuff over here. I
yeah.
will then take my document camera and draw for them a path of what coaching looks like.
Ah, cool. So you
So I will
diagram it out. Okay. Yeah.
visually draw it out, and this is a major advantage, especially when COVID happened. That a lot of people starting to do facilitation online, they didn't know how to use music or didn't know how to use visuals like the overhead projector that we used to use in
Yeah.
my generation in school,
Yeah.
right? So I'll use that to draw it. I'll let them take a picture of that, or I'll send that drawing to them, so they
Mm,
now have the visual of what the program looks like. We've kind of locked it in with a little bit of music, with a little bit of a drawing. We've ratcheted the pain up to an immense place. And I always am hesitant about when people have like a remorse, because when we meet for the first time, they're not expecting that this is what the investment package is going to look like for most
mm,
people, right? So I don't want to have that remorse. I actually give most of them, who allow me at least, I give them this opportunity to think about it. And I
okay.
don't try to close hard on the spot. I give them the package. And then from there, I will set the next time with them to follow up, normally
Yeah.
in a day or less than a week. And in that time, I will send them videos I have of testimonials from current high profile or high
Yeah.
performance clients, right? And then when we'll come back, if they're still interested, and about half of them still are, will get the deal. And that's how we lock in their commitment rather than pushing for it on the spot. At this level, it will normally take me an intro call, a discovery call, and then we're into the third or fourth call to get, these, six-figure, $250,000 contracts.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so with coaches listening, they're usually selling like a $3,000 to $5,000 package, right? Which is usually a one call close. So I just want to point that out.
Mhm.
Like at a high level of 15K a month, you might need a couple more calls to close that type of deal. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes, and I maybe a word of warning, maybe just my own experience, but here's my
Mhm.
truth. I have found that working with some of the biggest companies in the world, some of the banks, some of the big retail giants,
Yep.
companies, tech companies like Google, Oracle. I found that I love the people. I always love the people. The bigger the company, it seems to me that there seems to be some number of people that come to the coaching program that don't want to be there because the
Yeah.
leader wants you to be there. You got to be there. And I don't
Yeah.
like pulling people uphill. So I prefer to work in the small to mid-sized business range because everyone that's there, they're paying out of their own pocket or they genuinely want to be there. So I'm really in tune on the front end with who is actually going to get the coaching. Is it the
Mm,
big level leader that wants, hey, coach the team because they need it? That is not
mm,
interesting to me now.
mm,
Before it was a high paying job and I loved it because of the money. Then I get
mm.
into it and it's like they're being dragged uphill. They don't want to be there as
Yeah,
much.
I'd hate that too.
So I'm mindful of that part. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, mindful of that.
Okay, cool. Cool. Now I love this conversation of sales. It's just
Hmm.
and for me,
Oh yeah.
like I'm a marketing guy, right? So I've been running ads since 2016 and spent like millions and millions on ads. So my thing's marketing and getting qualified appointments. And sales is always up until like I mean I could close. I wasn't as good as what I knew I could be, but I just was focused on marketing. I knew if I did that well, then I'd get the right people to show up and the numbers would work out basically. But recently I've really focused on, improving my sales skills. And this month had my best ever month because of that exact reason.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's exciting. And anyway, I just love this discussion of sales because it's such a powerful, like let's say you're getting 5 appointments per month, right? Just 5 appointments, and you're only closing one of them. You improve your, let's say that gets you like a $3,000 client. You improve your sales process. If nothing else, you get the same amount of appointments. Let's say you go from closing 1 out of 5 to say 2 out of 5. All of a sudden, you've literally doubled your income. And for me, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the power of sales, right? It's like just that little bit of increase in your closing rate dramatically increases like your monthly income, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's such a what's the word, like a high leverage, it's like the what's the on the door, the hinge. It's like a hinge, right? That swings like big doors. Like you fix that, and
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
it makes such a huge difference in your business. That's why I love this discussion. Now, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that other coaches make with their sales process, on their just the sales process, like on the calls, or maybe something else that you've noticed?
So I say two thoughts on that one. Number one is that they try to sell, here are the features and benefits. Here's everything that's great about my program
Yep.
without first asking at least 13 questions to figure out what they want most, to
Yeah.
figure out where the pain
Yeah.
is. It's all in the questions on the front end. So many
So
new
true.
coaches are
Yeah.
so quick to try to tell people that, oh, I can help you here. I can help you there. Here's all the features and benefits. Here's why
Yeah.
I'm great, and talk about me
Mm,
before they fully qualify the person. They find out what matters most to them. They find out any history. They find out, how they are around people. They find out the culture of the organization they're with. They find out goals. They find out past wins and losses. There's so much information that we can find out in the front end before we ever even mention. There are literally, I'd say that more than half the time before we even get to a place where I have the deal signed, about half the time when I get the deal signed, we've
mm,
not actually created the exact plan yet of how we're going to get there. But
yeah.
because I can show that I understand so deeply what their pain is and that there is a path to get to solve that pain, and I
Mm,
can tell great stories of other clients who've been on that path, before we actually crystallize the actual process, we have the deal closed because we understand so clearly their pain and what they want most. But if you don't know what they want most, you could be spouting the greatest features and benefits in the world. And if that doesn't really relate to what they need, what they want, doesn't help their pain, then it doesn't matter. That's one, is back to the beginning. Get to become the best asker of questions, and you win on the sales side, right? So that was the first question. And then, you know what? I was going to say something else too.
Well, the other thing with that I'll point out there, maybe you remember the next part. The cool thing with asking the right question at the beginning is that you can actually overcome a lot of objections in that discovery phase of the call, right? So for example, one of your questions could be, are you getting help from anyone else at the moment, right? Are you invested in any other programs? And that's when they go, oh yeah, I'm looking at this other program over here at the moment. Okay, cool. What are they going to be helping you with specifically? Oh, this, and this. Okay. And that's where you go, do they provide one-on-one coaching, right? Because if you know that you do one-on-one coaching, and they might say, oh, no, it's a group program. Okay, interesting. Do they, do this type of coach, or do they have this in their methodology or this in their process? No, they don't. Okay, oh, interesting. So that's one example of how you can kind of get some context of other programs that they're looking at. And then when you go to pitch your offer, you can tell them all the reasons why, this is a better fit for where they are, right? And what they actually need to, what they actually want to get to. And you can also ask things like, what have you tried in the past, right? What are the methodologies? Because for me, one of the things that I teach is how to use like a free guide to generate leads. Now, most coaches have used a free guide, like a lead magnet, right? So if I don't ask that question, like, do you have a lead magnet? Because most coaches use a lead magnet and then they go to email the list and it doesn't work. And they think, oh, lead magnets don't work. It's like, well, no, you can't just give away any lead magnet. It has to be the right lead magnet that attracts the right client onto your list. So if I don't ask a question like, have you tried lead magnet before, or email, and I go to do my pitch and say, here's what you need. If I don't have that information, then an objection can come up and go, I've already tried that, and then I'm kind of on the back foot. Now I'm trying to say, oh, no, this is different, right? As opposed to getting that information up front, understanding what they've tried, why that didn't work. And then when I go to explain my system, fitting it in with kind of explaining here's why it didn't work before, here's why this will work this time, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
I love everything you said there. And it kind of leads to, if the question you and I are trying to answer for our listeners right now is, how do you get more deals? How do you get more clients that are qualified that you want to work with? My piece of advice aligned with yours would be, know your competition incredibly well. Like, I love it when I ask that question, and I ask the question you just shared every time, Luke. I always ask, so who's your coach right now? Because the people that I'm coaching on this level, most of them have a coach, or they're between coaches at the moment. That's why we're talking. And so I'll ask, who's your coach? Or what's your experience been with coaching? What was great about it? What was not so great about it? Right? Simple questions. And I will get so many times, someone will say, well, I have an EOS coach right now. And I love EOS. I love Gino Wickman. I love traction and rocket fuel and all that. I love to get that. That is a different type of coaching than what I offer, right? So I can sell alongside. My biggest clients right now are using EOS for their rocks, their goals, that strategy, and they're using me as their confidant and their under the waterline emotional intelligence and coaching sales process. All right. So I can partner well with that. Strategic coach. I love Dan Sullivan. Spoken with him before. He's amazing. And he does great stuff. He does it in groups. I do a private one-on-one virtual and do it a little more frequently. All right. So there are pros and cons to both. But knowing your competition really well is a great place. I don't ever slam the competition. I don't ever think bad about them, because heck, if you're hiring a coach, even if it's not me, wink, even if it's not me, you took the initiative to hire someone to help you get clarity and help you work on your game, work on your business. So I admire that. Do I have a certain something I bring that other coaches may not? Maybe. You can be the judge of that, but I'm never going to talk bad about someone else, other coaching companies. I appreciate that there are some of us out there. And by the way, there's plenty of turf out there, plenty of prospects to go around.
Exactly
there's an abundance of people out there.
I've got clients that I run ads for, and they're competitors of me. Right? They help coaches, but I don't care, because I think my system's the best. So I know how to position it in a way where I can have a stronger marketing message. But I'll still create a marketing message for them that's as strong as it can be for their particular system, right? So, for example, one of my clients, she does 5-day challenges, right? So we fill a Facebook group, and it's over 5 days. She kind of teaches her system, which is 5-day challenges, and then after that, she books the appointments. Now, for me, that strategy, I don't like complex funnels. I don't like any of that complexity, but some people do, and they like that. Okay, if you want the complexity, go ahead, do the 5-day challenge. My strategy is much more simple. I guess it's kind of building your list and emailing your list consistently. That's like the foundation, right? Just keep it very simple. That's all you really need to get consistent clients.
I love your simplicity of your list, Luke. I love the way you took it from complex. You made it simple. Mine's also very simple. It's evolved over time. It was
your
very
marketing
heavy,
strategy,
much
is that what
more
you're saying?
intensive. Well, my system now for getting new clients,
Yep.
it's quite simple. Here it is. Here it is in one sentence. 1 hour a week, 8:30, 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday morning Eastern time. I make 5 reach out calls. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. Who are these
So
people?
who are you
They
calling?
are the prospects that I've been referred to. That's it.
Okay.
If it's someone that's reached out to me, they might slide into one of those 5 spots. But I will make 5 proactive reach out calls or emails if I don't have a phone number each week in that time slot on Tuesday morning. Do I get them? Rarely do I get someone on the phone at that time. That's okay. I get them. They call back, either me or my assistant. We schedule that, and then we're off and we're in the process. But a consistent sales funnel time or process time for me to prospect, that is the key for me. Before it was, it was number of times every week. It was at least 100 dials a week. It was X number of emails or LinkedIn reach outs a week. It was a different number as my career has progressed. But it's something consistent every week.
So important.
Every week.
Consistency. Yeah, mine's just send an email per day. Just like
there you go.
1 email a day. Just build your list and send 1 email per day with an offer to work with you. Basically, like it's just a call to action, soft call to action at the end to book an appointment. Like pretty straightforward. But as you said, it's just more about the consistency, right? As long as you're getting in that, whoever you're contacting, it could be people on LinkedIn, as you said, it could be doing a Facebook Live in a Facebook group, sending an email. Whatever it is, it's consistent and it's actually going to your ideal, kind of your market, right? You don't want to be, doing it at a place where it's not reaching your ideal audience. So that's obviously very important. But if you do that and you're consistent, and this is where most coaches stop, is they do this for a while, maybe like a month, it doesn't work, and then they're on to the next kind of bright, shiny strategy, right?
I know.
It's not about it's even not about the marketing. Like I teach just an email per day because I think it's the simplest way. But if email a day is not working, or if, as I said, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn is not working, it's not because of the strategy most of the time. It's because of the message that is within that strategy, right? So that's why it's important to have a great offer, important to have a great sales process, and then a marketing message to attract whoever it is that you're speaking to onto your appointment. So, so now it sounds like, because you're at a certain level of success, you're kind of just doing a referral based strategy. Now, before that, what was your probably, if you were to put your finger on like the best, like, because we're usually talking to coaches under 6 figures on this show, right? So was there a particular marketing strategy that you could share with them that worked well for you in terms of just generating appointments before the referral?
Yes, I can go back to day one when I first started coaching, September 2014. The very first exercise I did is make my top 100 list. 100 people that I thought would be at least open to hearing me practice my pitch on them. So I reached out to 50 people in that first day, made 50 calls or texts in the first day. And over the course of that next month, I was able to schedule, here's the specific statistics. 50 people reached out to, 35 people actually responded back. That's like 15 people I called didn't even reach back out to me. I thought they were like my friends, right? So I'm okay with that. But 35 people reached back out. Out of those 35, I had a total of 30 of them take the mind scan. Now, the mind scan is our tool, which allows us to get an understanding of their thinking based on Nobel Prize nominated research, Dr. Robert Hartman. That's our tool. 30 people took the mind scan. Out of those 30, all 30 of them agreed to see me one-on-one through a virtual appointment and go to meeting.
Yep.
And out of those 30 that saw me, 13 of them became my first clients. They were all friends, all people that I knew professionally, some
Okay.
personally, from between $200 a month to $500 a month.
Wow. And so you led basically with a great offers, in other words, right? So you led with, hey, so it was free? Like you do the brain scan for them for free? Was that the offer?
Oh, well, the offer was, so Luke, I've started a new business, and I'm taking all the years of experience in sales and leadership, and I've parlayed it into a coaching company. And I would love to get your feedback on how my process works. If you'd be willing to offer me an hour, I would love to practice my presentation with you. And if you're interested, then by all means, you could sign up to be a client, but I don't expect that. I just want to practice with you and get your honest feedback. Right.
Wow.
That's one approach. Make them the expert, ask for their feedback. And
Yeah.
by the way, the pitch is pretty darn good once I've got them face to face.
Yep.
So I'm comfortable that it's not just practice when they start to see, oh, this actually could work.
So you
right?
didn't even mention the brain scan in that initial offer.
Oh, the mind scan. Yeah, I did. I mentioned to them when they said, yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to send you the mind scan. Take it. Takes 5 or 10 minutes. You'll get a report. We'll review it together. And that's when I have the
and that
conversation.
mind scan helped point out some problems that they needed to work on, it sounds like.
That's right. Or it helps, not the problems, it helps us to understand their thinking. So are they someone that's more driven by following a process structure system? Are they more of a feeler, high empathy or lack of empathy? Are they driven by their own internal standards, or do they even have standards? It gives us a lot of in-depth into how they think. And if you understand how they think and you know what questions to ask, then you can really serve them. Now, I didn't know what questions to ask at that time necessarily. I had to learn those. Right. So patience and grace for coaches out there in your growth period. But if I could do it all over again, knowing what I know now to go and study, be a master asker of questions. Master asker of questions.
Don't say that fast 3 times. Yeah. Okay. I got one more question for you, Matt, that I like to ask my guests. If you were standing on the top of a mountain, you got these coaches below you, and you can only shout one thing at them in order to help them to become successful, right? From the top of the mountain, what would that be?
What a great question. It was the same thing that I shout in my community, the Eternal Optimist podcast community. It's, you can do it too. Just get your reps in. We've got to practice. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress. Without practice, we will not have the success. And you've got to stick with it and practice to get there. So that'd be what I would shout on top of the mountain. You can do it.
Great advice.
Get your reps in.
Thanks, Matt. All right. So
and then I would jump on top of them. I would stare dive like on top of them, and then really get the wave going. That would be,
cool.
That'd be on brand.
Nice. Okay. So where can coaches listening go to learn more about, what it is that you do, how you can help them?
Great question. Our coaching company is Pro Advisor Coach. You can find us at www.proadvisorcoach.com. I also have a podcast, the Eternal Optimist podcast. And you can find me at that same name on Instagram, on Facebook, and the Eternal Optimist on YouTube. And I run a live stream every morning, Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern on the Eternal Optimist podcast, Instagram and Facebook channels. So feel free to interact with me. It's about 20, 25 minutes every morning. And I interact with the community and talk about what it takes to be an eternal optimist and a high-performance coach and leader.
Nice.
That's it.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. So go check out Matt. And once again, thanks for being a guest. And if you are wanting to come on to the Six Figure Coaches show, all you have to do is go to podcast.lukecharlton.com. That is the link. I checked it yesterday. It is working. So go to podcast.lukecharlton.com and we can share your story on this show, just like we have with Matt. So again, Matt, thanks once again for coming on the show. I loved the discussion on sales. As I mentioned, that's something that I'm really refining my skills on at the moment. So I love that discussion. So appreciate you sharing your insights, and I look forward to seeing where you go with the rest of your journey, and maybe having you on again in the future in some time as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. It's been a pleasure, my friend, and you're much appreciated.